When your characters go hunting for meat in the wild, things get interesting fast, and not always in the heroic, Instagram-worthy way they imagine. This episode walks writers through how someone can hunt, process, and cook meat using only what the forest provides, plus the very real consequences of getting any of those steps wrong. From practical tips to the real-life things that give me the heebie-jeebies, you'll get the grounded details that make wilderness survival scenes feel authentic and relatable. Learn about all of this and more in today's episode. Welcome to Writing Rural with Allie, the fiction writer's inspiration station for rural life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rural stories to life. This is episode 115, What Every Fiction Writer Should Know About Finding Wilderness Survival Food, Part 2. Every word was written by Allie, and this episode is currently voiced by AI. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. Now, let's get into this. For anyone who missed part 1, when I say survival, I am talking about characters who are in the wilderness with no imminent help or way to leave. Maybe aliens abducted them and brought them back to a forest. Perhaps they went skydiving in the wrong place. They could even have gone on a boat trip through the Amazon and the boat overturned. Whatever the case, they need to eat to survive. In the last episode, we covered plants and bugs. This time, we are talking meat. So, a quick warning that this episode will talk about animal processing. This involves getting a dead animal ready to be cooked, and we will talk about blood and guts. You've been warned. Now, I know I hear people say that if they ever are in a survival situation, they'll just hunt a deer and be fine. This makes me roll my eyes every time. Unless your character is on a hunting trip from hell, why would they randomly have a rifle on them for hunting big game? Yes, some handguns could kill a deer, depending on the caliber, but your character will need to be close for this, a lot closer than most people will be to a deer in their entire lives. Now, that doesn't mean they can't or will not be that close, but your character will need patience, plus the art of holding perfectly still for long periods of time if they hope to not be spotted by the deer before they are close enough to shoot. There is still one big problem with hunting a deer, or frankly, anything near that large in a survival situation. If it is not freezing outside, the meat will go bad quickly. Unless you're writing dragons, werewolves, or giants, they are not eating a whole deer in one sitting. Another problem is that extra food lying around can and likely will attract predators. This is why campers keep food away from the campsite. The last thing your character needs in a survival situation is to face off with a hungry bear. However, that is still realistic. Think Jeremiah Johnson. I still remember reading the diary of Daniel Boone killing a bear with a knife. I've done a lot of crazy things, but don't think I am that brave. So if your character shouldn't be hunting big game, what should they hunt? Small game and fish. You'll want to research the area you are writing about. In my part of the world, the most likely ones they will come across are birds, rabbits, mice, rats, frogs, snakes, lizards, squirrels, and of course, fish. If they don't have a gun, they will clearly have to hunt in other ways, so let's cover some of these. Ones that do not require anything but what is found in the forest include deadfalls, bait stick snares, pit traps, peg snares, and a simple snare. Snares can be made with braided plant fibers like grass or cattail leaves. Funnel traps work well for fish and can be made with rocks or sticks. However, if they have some type of string with them, such as paracord, they can make things like tripwire snares. Now, traps are not the only way to hunt. Your characters can make their own weapons, and it's surprisingly easy. I have a full episode about flint knapping. If you don't know what it is, flint knapping is the making of knives, arrowheads, spears, axes, and things like this out of rocks. It was literally my first podcast ever, so it's a bit cringe, but we all start somewhere. Surprisingly, stone knives do not take a long time to make, but remember, unlike metal knives, if the blade twists, your character risks snapping the blade. Okay, so what else can your characters make to hunt with? If they have time, because they will be there for a while, they could make a bow and arrows. Another thing that might take more time is an atlas. This is basically a spear with a handheld throwing guide. As a short person, I feel like most are longer than I could use. Other faster options are a normal spear. In fact, many smaller game don't even need a spearhead. A pointy stick would work as long as your character uses enough thrust. Most people don't realize how much it takes, but even hungry kid characters are able to do this one. If they cut a barb or two into the stick, they can use these for spearfishing. Throwing a rock can also be used. This assumes your character can hit a broadside of a barn. I can't. That said, I learned as a kid that a good solid stick will also work. Weirdly, I'm very accurate throwing things, vertical things, just not round ones. Your character will need a stick about a foot long that is about as thick as a shovel handle or thicker if they can handle it well. It's thrown the same way you would throw a frisbee in the upright position. I've used this on snakes trying to eat my baby chickens. I even once saw it used on a squirrel about 40 feet up a tree. Talk about aim. Now, for fishing, there are many ways to make a fishing hook. This can be done with carved wood, large thorns that are carved or tied together, carved bone, pop tabs, nails, screws, most types of wire, fork tins, paper clips, safety pins, and a whole lot more. If your character wants to get fancy, they can use bottle caps or even pieces of a CD as a makeshift lure. Bottle caps are weirdly common along riverbanks, but most things that are shiny will work. Okay, so let's say your character has got themselves an animal. Now what? Well, this is where things get messy and a bit gross. Your character now needs to remove the fur or scales plus the guts. This is called skinning and gutting, or for fish, descaling and gutting. A knife, even a pocket knife, would be best for this, but a sharp rock will work. I know there are bone knives used in some areas of the world. After that part is done, your character then needs to remove the guts. Basically, they will reach into the chest and abdomen cavities and remove anything they find. Yes, some organs of some animals can be eaten, like the liver, but does your character actually know what it looks like in that animal? I mean, when they pull out a handful of guts, could they identify it within everything else? Now, as for what it is like to do this, well, it's warm, body temperature warm, slippery, and your character's hand, along with any part of their arm that went into the animal, will feel slightly sticky. It can be bloody. The organs sometimes want to stick to the hand. They will need to be shaken or flicked off. I warned you, it was gross. Other gross things are if they get poop on them while they pull out the intestines. Worse if that gets on the meat. If the stomach breaks open for some reason, it smells awful and can make characters gag or even vomit. A few other important notes. Snakes, when killed, will still wiggle around for several minutes even after their heads are missing. Snakes can also still bite and inject venom after death. I was always taught to bury a snake's head so there were no accidents. I doubt the average person would think of that. Some birds have glands in their bottom area just above the tail that will need to be removed and should not be eaten. If your character were to get a skunk, they would need to remove the scent sac without breaking it open, or they will smell like skunk and the meat will not be good covered in it. Okay, let's talk cooking. First, your character needs fire. I don't care if people say they will eat raw meat, it's both gross and carries bacteria that will likely give your character food poisoning at best or kill them painfully at worst. So unless you want to make your character suffer, maybe don't do that. Second, they need some way to cook the meat. Now, if they have camping gear and a skillet, yay for them. If not, there are other ways to cook meat. As I mentioned last week, if they were in a plane crash, they could use metal from the plane, but would need to burn the paint off first. Burning the paint will stink and cause a lot of smoke, and any meat placed on it will taste like the burned paint the first few times they use it. However, if the choice is between a bad taste or starving, they will eat it. Other options are to secure the meat on pointy sticks and cook it over the fire, similar to rotisserie chicken. Please note they want to use green wood, that means freshly cut or broken off the tree, because it's harder to catch on fire than dry wood. Dry wood is wood that has been dead for long enough that the natural water content leaves the wood. They could also hang long strips across these sticks and let them cook without turning. Skewering a whole fish, squirrel, or other small animal is an option. It's possible to make a tripod-type stand on both sides of the fire and place the stick with the meat between them, with nothing but what is found in the forest in only a few minutes. Another technique that has been used is to wrap a fish or other small game in giant green leaves and bury them in the coal. That would be the hot pieces as the wood falls apart while burning. According to a web search, they are cooked for roughly 20 minutes in the coals. Personally, we do not have leaves that big here, or maybe we just have big fish. Either way, that would be difficult in my part of the world. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but Allie, how do we know when the meat is done without a meat thermometer? There are ways. In fact, it wasn't until I took cooking classes in high school that I even learned about a meat thermometer, so I know this answer. The meat will literally change color all the way through. Each type of meat changes to a different color, so you'll need to look up the meat your character is cooking to know what color. Typical colors are white, gray, or brown. Another way to tell is when the juices dripping off the meat are no longer bloody or pink, but clear. However, the main and most important test is to cut into or tear open the meat and physically look at it to see if it is done. Fish will fall apart in flakes when cooked. Regular meat will look like hundreds of tendons, and they will easily pull apart if your character pulls the tendons apart from each other. This is not pulling them in half, but more like peeling a banana or pulling apart string cheese. The best way to see what I mean is the next time you eat meat, use your hands and try tearing it apart. Just make sure it's cooled some or this might hurt. Always check the largest meat part because this takes the longest to cook. When it is done, so is everything else. If your character cooked the meat with the bone in, they need to check the largest meat part down to the bone. That will take the longest to cook. If your character is unsure if the meat is done, cook it longer. It's better to be overcooked than to give themselves feed poisoning such as salmonella in the middle of a survival situation. Signs and symptoms of food poisoning from the GI tract are stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. These can quickly lead to dehydration, which can be deadly in a survival situation. I have an episode about dehydration in characters if you'd like to learn more. It can also lead to lethargy, which can cause your character to be too weak to add wood to the fire to stay warm, among other things. If your character's diarrhea turns bloody, it is a major red flag that they need immediate medical attention. Worse, wild animals come with other types of food poisonings on top of these. First is tularemia, commonly called rabbit fever. Rabbits, muskrats, and rodents carry this. I have personally known people who have had this. Signs and symptoms include mouth sores, swollen neck glands, diarrhea, and vomiting. The way I was taught to avoid this is by waiting until after the first hard snow to hunt them. The one that gives me the heebie-jeebies is trichinosis. This is a type of parasite that lives in the muscles of bears, boars, cougars, and walruses. For the first couple of days, there will be nausea and diarrhea, but 2 to 8 weeks later, the parasites will migrate to the character's muscles. This causes swelling around the eyes, a high fever, and extreme muscle soreness. I see some reports of it feeling like the worst flu a person ever had. Now, any of these things could cause fear in your characters. They might believe whatever they ate was toxic. They might think it is a horrible infection and fear they will die. You might just use this as a misdirection while adding breadcrumbs for a plot twist. Just some thoughts. Also, rabbit starvation is a real thing, something you can learn more about in my episode, 5 Animals That Feed Characters and Elevate Stories. All right. Now, if your character is stuck in the wilderness for a longer period of time, or if they need food on the go, there are a few ways that meat can be preserved for longer periods of time. It will not last forever, but will stretch a while. First is smoking meat. I covered how to do this in the episode, Another 5 More Alternative Food Preservations Every Writer Should Know. It was the 3rd in a 4-part series. I also covered dehydration in that series. Dehydration is how your characters would make jerky. Both of these were commonly used by Native Americans. Next up, and also common among Native Americans, pemmican. This is when dried meat was crushed into a powder, then mixed with lard or tallow, meat fat drippings, and other things such as dried seeds and berries. These were normally wrapped in leaves, but I have seen wax paper used in modern times. This makes a high energy bar that is calorie dense and portable. Think of it like a primitive granola bar. There is one other protein source we should talk about: eggs. Now, if your character climbs up a tree, they could fall out of the tree or drop the egg. That is why low nests or ground nests would be best to take eggs from. Some birds in my area that make nests on the ground are pheasants, quail, ducks, turkeys, and geese. Barn swallows like covered areas to make nests, and weirdly, last year they built nests in the culvert under our road. Yes, the one water goes through, and I was shocked they didn't lose them in a flood. Now, keep in mind, some birds will fight for their nests and attack your characters. If you haven't heard me say it before, geese essentially have teeth. From personal experience, it hurts when they bite. Your character is likely to get hit with wings and bitten many times. Worse, if your character is attacked by a turkey defending its eggs. The males have spurs that can grow to 3-ish inches and are wider than my thumb, in some cases wider than both of my thumbs together. It's not something your character wants stabbed with and could be deadly, though male turkeys normally do not guard the eggs, but might guard the females. Fun fact: catfish do not have scales. They have smooth, often slippery skin that feels leathery. Their whiskers are also hard and can easily stab a character's hand if the catfish moves while they are holding it. One quick reminder before we get to all the ways things could go wrong in your story. To help others find this content, pop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. Or if you are watching on YouTube or Substack, drop me a comment and say hello or ask a question. This is the best way to help others find my content. Now, for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong in your story? Likely to go wrong: your character went fishing and caught a catfish. They do not know the whiskers are hard and stab their own hand on them. Also likely to go wrong: your character tries to make string for a snare out of grass. They are able to make string, but the animal they get is too strong of an animal to be held by the grass alone, and they break it getting away. Possible to go wrong: your character was able to hunt a deer, and they thought they could save the meat in the cold. However, a warm front moves in, and the meat starts to rot. Also possible to go wrong: your character tries gutting an animal for the first time and keeps gagging at the feeling of guts on their hands. Unlikely to go wrong: your character is making a deadfall to go hunting. As they set the trap up, they accidentally set it off and break their own hand. Also unlikely to go wrong: your character decides to wrap a fish in a leaf and bake it in the coals of a fire. When they try to get it out, they do not realize how hot it is and burn their hand. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities: your character doesn't cook their wild boar long enough, and they become infected with parasites. If they do not get medical help, this will be a slow, painful death over weeks. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities: your character is attacked by a turkey and flogged in the thigh with its spur. While they survive the flogging, the wound soon becomes infected. If they do not get medical help, this could be deadly. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities: your character washes their hands in the stream to get blood off of them. They happen to have a small cut on their hand and become infected with a waterborne bacterial infection from this. They will need medical help, or this could be deadly. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing.